In this video, we're going to show you how to replace the Downstream O2 sensor on your Jeep Wrangler located after the catalytic converter. Now before we drop down our transmission skid plate here, we want to go ahead and pay attention here. We're going to use our jack with a block of wood. We want to go ahead and support the transmission. We're not going to lift the transmission, we literally just want to support it. So go ahead and jack that up and just put some slight pressure on it. That's all you want to do. Now we're going to go ahead and move over to our skid plate here. Right in the center right here, these 4 ports, there are 4 13mm nuts. We want to go ahead and loosen and remove those. Now we did spray these down with some rust penetrant to help speed this up. Now we're going to use a second jack here to go ahead and support this plate. This plate can be awkward and heavy. It's great if you have an extra set of hands to help you out when doing this job. We are not going to lift the vehicle. This is, again, just a support. So just apply some light pressure to this plate while we remove the securing bolts. Now on the passenger side here, there are 3 19mm bolts. We can go ahead, loosen and remove those. Let's move to the driver's side. Do the same over here. Now before we loosen and remove the last bolt, the only thing at this point securing this is the jack. If you don't have an extra hand, you want to be prepared because this is a heavy component. Now that we have that out, we're going to lower our jack and bring this down to a level that is a little easier to handle this tray. Go ahead and remove this and set it aside. Now right above the transfer case here, you're going to find the O2 sensor electrical connector. You're going to lift up on the little tab on the front here and separate this. Have that separated. Now we're going to use our trim tool and go ahead and disconnect the sensor clip from the bracket there. Pop one up there and pop that out and let that drop down. Now I'm using a split O2 sensor socket, and the purpose of having the split is allows for that wire to come through. You want to try and go ahead and loosen this here. Now this doesn't want to move. You may end up having to apply some heat around this flange here to go ahead and break up the rust around this and spin that out. Now normally you can just use a socket or you can use the O2 sensor socket on this. Ours was pretty rusted in. We had to apply some heat to this here and use a pair of locking pliers to grab a hold of this and spin it out. I'm going to take the new sensor and remove the sensor protector. Pop that cap off. Now there is some anti-seize compound on the threads, and there is a crush washer on here to help with the sealing process. Let's go ahead and line that up, and we're going to thread that in. Now as you're threading this in, you want to make sure that you spin the wires with the O2 sensor. You don't want these to twist and break at the sensor. So go ahead and twist that harness with it. Thread that down as far as you can go. And you can use your socket or your wrench to go ahead and tighten this down. Now the crush washer itself needs to be crushed, hence the name of it. And that's what seals the sensor into the exhaust. So you're going to feel it get tight. You can do a visual on the gasket itself or the crush washer. You can see that it is pretty flat. And you want to make sure this is good and tight. Once you have that, you can go ahead and take that harness and we're going to feed that back up on top of the transfer case because we want to go ahead and reconnect that now. Now that we have the harness up top, we want to go ahead and line these up, press it together. And you can hear it and feel it lock in. You can also look at the locking tabs around the perimeter. You can see that they're bottomed out, so you know that that's installed. The new sensor has a little Christmas tree retainer on it, so it's going to go right back up into this bracket up top. Go ahead and press it in. Now that you have your O2 sensor hooked up, we want to go ahead and install our lower transmission plate, skid plate. So what we want to do is get that raised up in a position. The main thing we're going to do is focus on getting one of the bolts in on the plate on either driver or passenger side. In our case, we're going to do this on the driver's side. And we're going to get in one of the bolts, and that's going to allow us to pivot and line things up as they should be. Take one bolt, feed it up through into the frame, get that bolt started a few threads. I'm going to go ahead and install one of the front ones. And follow it up with the middle. Now that we have these in just a few threads, we can go ahead to the passenger side and get those bolts installed. All right, once we have all 6 of these in, let's go ahead and get the 4 installed for the transmission. I'm gonna remove our jack, roll that aside. Gonna get these 4 nuts started. With all 4 of those started, let's go ahead and tighten down the outside bolts first. Now that we have these 6 outer bolts tightened, let's go ahead and snug down the 4 bolts here. I'm going to do the same thing, just tighten them down. Remove your jack for the transmission. Pull that out, set it aside. Now once you've done this here, you want to go back up on top. If you have a check engine light, go ahead and clear that code before you go ahead and fire it up. You can go for road test at that point. If the light stays out, you're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.